More injuries at center. Schweitzer's back there. How much of an adjustment is it each time when you have to change that position in particular?
Just for the quarterback and then the communication, those linemen, they spend so much time together. They're pretty good of communicating, amongst that group. Just the snaps a little bit different, maybe the timing on the gun snaps. Taylor's worked with Wes before, so it wasn't, hard to get back in. And Wes is, he's done this, play guard, he plays center, so he'll be fine. But there's just that little bit of adjustment, when you kind of start the practice week.
How can the run game be more explosive?
That's a good question. We vary the runs. A lot of times it's, whether it's getting that extra block downfield, there's always going to be, one more guy. The offense, there's always one more guy because of the quarterback, that we can't block. So you got, whether it's making that guy miss, getting the receiver on him, and then the corner kind of sunk in, you break that extra tackle. We've been really close on a lot of runs. I think as the game goes on, sometimes you can kind of break through it, and I think that we'll get some more long runs. I'd like to see that. I like the fact that our guys are being physical and we're grinding through some things, and that's where, for me, even though, maybe we're not getting some explosive runs, staying patient with it because we are churning it out and getting some first downs that way. But I just think the more, and for a guy like Brian, that, again, as good as he's played, he's still a rookie. And I think we've all seen him improve. And I think those will come too, as he continues to improve that way.
Is it possible to get more explosive runs if you're running it at the rate that you are and defenses are defending you as they have been?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we had going back to when I was in Minnesota in 2015, and we had Adrian Peterson, and he led the league in rushing, and it actually comes out that way a lot. They overplay the run too, and you make that one guy miss, and there's nobody left. You know what I mean? So that's sometimes you really get the breakouts. When they're play a little more conservative and zone coverage, or everyone's eyes are on you. That's where it's hard. You might get 4, 5, 6, but you're not getting that big one because there's always someone looking at you there that way.
The Curtis you had in Carolina and the one you have now in Washington, where's the biggest growth been as a player?
I think just his confidence. He's came in, just going back to the history. He came into the league, and I wasn't there with him his rookie year, but he's kind of been like a tweener type guy. That he was kind of a half running back, half receiver at Ohio State, and when you're there, it's not sure exactly which guy you are. And he came in as a receiver, more so as a receiver. And just working at it, and then obviously last year was really tough on him because he just couldn't get his body right. And as much as those guys try to ignore it, there's criticism, and I think part of him, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think he kind of felt like he was letting people down. That hey, we brought you in to be this, and just him getting over that hump and his body being good, and then the success that he's had both as a receiver and then also running the ball. He feels like he can do anything, as he should, and he's done an outstanding job this year, and been a really good player for us. And I think same deal. He's a young guy too. Even though he's been in the league for a while, he's young, and he's going to keep getting better and better too.
In some respects, he's on pace to have his best rushing year. Do you have any clue as to why this year he's popping runs a little more, yards per carries up?
No, I don't know. I think he is fast. He plays very fast. He gets the ball out and around the edge. He finishes runs for a guy that's not very big. He's very physical while getting tackled, so that adds and gets those extra yards. I'm not sure. You could probably tell me. I don't know where it is. As far as you're talking about, is it yards per carry? Or?
Yeah, it'll be yards. He's 6.1 versus.
Okay, yeah, I knew he was something around that. I didn't know what it was before, but yeah, he just, I think he's getting better. Like I say, he's playing with confidence, and he gets upfield fast.
With Jahan, when he came back at first with that hamstring injury, his numbers were a little bit lower compared to the beginning of the year. But then against the Giants, it seemed like him and Heineke finally found that connection for the first time. Is that just a guy getting more reps with the quarterback he didn't work with a lot, or something else?
I think with Jahan, I think a little bit of it is just the situation that we were in. We threw it a little bit more earlier in the season. He got hurt. He came back. When he first came back, his snap numbers were lower. We're kind of playing other guys as well, and we didn't want to overload him, especially coming off a soft tissue injury. And then we were running the ball a lot, and then obviously Taylor and Terry have such a great rapport. So we're throwing the ball to Terry, and the pass attempts were down. Obviously Terry's going to get his. We're getting the ball to Curtis, and the ball just didn't seem to go his way. We had some matchups that we liked, and obviously he got some more balls this past game, and I think it'll continue to go that way. And part of it is, I'm sure it is that Taylor didn't throw to Jahan very much all through training camp, because Jahan's with the starters, and Taylor wasn't. So have an opportunity to throw to him in practice now, a few weeks, and then in the games, that has something to do with it too. But I think the biggest thing is just the way that we're running the ball. Everybody's attempts or targets are going to go down a little bit.
And you guys activated Carson this week. How has he been the last 6 or 7 weeks since everything's kind of went down?
He's been really good. I think credit to both him and Taylor. I mean, Taylor, spent the year last year as a starter, and we brought Carson in to be the starter, and Taylor took him in and said, hey, how can I help you learn this offense? And they, golfed together, and they became friends. And, a lot of guys, will do that, and it's kind of like it's maybe not genuine. But, with Taylor, I've always got the feeling that it was, and they formed a genuine friendship. So, obviously, it's hard on Carson. He wants to play. You're a competitor. But he's, to his credit, done the same thing, with Taylor, and he's been in all. He doesn't miss the meetings. He was sick last week a little bit, or 2 weeks ago, but he's in there, using his experience in this league to help Taylor and ask questions maybe Taylor might not think about. And I think those guys get along really well, and it's a credit to the type of people that they are.
What did you make of Sam Cosmi at guard, and now that Trey Turner's back? Can we expect to see a Lucas-Cosmi split like you had been doing before?
We're kind of talking through that. Obviously, Sam got hurt in the last game, had the ankle. So he's practicing. I think he's fine, but he's still kind of working through that. I thought Sam, for his first time playing guard, there's some things to improve on, but he did a nice job. He did a nice job in there, and that might be something that you see a little bit more of going forward. Like I kind of said in the last time we talked, whatever we can do to get our best five out there, we're gonna do. And obviously, we like Sam as a player. And I'm not sure exactly now. We're still talking about how much if we're going to rotate those guys based on part of it is injury related as well.
What about him makes him a guard versus a tackle? Like, is it a size on the inside? What's appealing about?
No,
him as a guard?
so he's got the size to be a tackle, you know what I mean, and the athletics skills, but he also has that physicality, that you need at guard, and he's a little bit of a bigger guy. Sometimes, those guys at tackle, it's hard for him to move inside because now you're blocking those 300-pound nose guards and, 3 techniques, and they get overpowered a little bit where, Sam, although he has the athleticism and body type to be a tackle, he has that, the strength where he can play inside as well, and that's what gives him that versatility.
Terry called Curtis the most explosive player he'd ever played with. I'm just wondering what challenge that presents for you as an offensive coordinator. Like, you've got a receiver, you know what to do. You've got a running back, you know what to do. I'm sure you enjoy having Curtis Samuel, but do you spend a lot of extra time on what to do with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's more like I gotta contain myself. Like, I don't want to kill the guy, But you come up with a million things, and then it's like, all right, narrow it down. What are the best things? You know what I mean? And then again, spreading the ball and let everybody let us attack the defense so they don't know exactly where it's not just all Curtis all the time. Or all Terry or whatever it is, but no, it's a good problem to have, and what you try to do is just try to focus in on not only what does he do best, but what schemes do we block the best, what routes do the quarterback throw the best, and then what does the defense not do so well, and then just kind of marrying all that together. But when someone gives you that many options with what they can do, it helps make the puzzle fit together.
Sure. Terry might get to 1,000 yards soon. I know you guys in the building know how great he is, but to have an opportunity to do that maybe on a Sunday night game for the national audience to see him, how much do you feel good for him getting that opportunity?
I feel great for Terry. I mean, I get we've had some games where he doesn't get the ball a lot, and that's always the one that gets me the most. I know how important it is to him, and I know how good of a player he is, and it's we got to get him the ball, and he's such a good guy. He doesn't show it. You know what I mean? He doesn't show the frustration. he kind of lets it out on those games where he does get a lot of targets, and but so you want to get, because I know like how he can impact the game, and he knows that also. So anytime that he gets the that credit, I'm happy for him, because he deserves it. He deserves a lot more too. I saw the one stat over the bye week of like the first one, like the 6th player ever to have over whatever it is, over 60 catches. I don't know, you guys might know it, or 900 yards or something like that. Yeah, 6 guys in their first however many years, 4 years or something. So that's pretty cool. That's not a lot of guys. So no, Terry's great, and I'm always happy for him.
Jack was just saying that with quarterbacks, at this point, there's more guys who run than there are guys who don't. They have to adjust almost to the guys who don't look to run. With Taylor, obviously, that mobility is one of his big things, but he hasn't been running, as much. And I know we've asked you about that to a degree, but like, is that almost odd on some level that he's not one of the guys that's kind of been running as much, if that's where this league is?
I think he did a lot of it, obviously last year. So I think there's been some opportunities to scramble that he had there where he could, and we encourage him to do that. I don't want to take him to take a bunch of unnecessary hits, but people have kind of identified that with him too, where he's getting a little bit of extra attention. We've seen a lot of zone coverages where there's a lot of eyes on the quarterback, but there has been some opportunities, I think, where he can get out and scramble and maybe just steal a first down a game, because that helps a lot, and that's stuff that we've talked about.
And also, is that just like part of the evolution? Because obviously when he burst onto the scene in that Tampa game, he's going for the pylon,
right,
and he's kind of just reckless out there.
Yeah.
Is that part of just his evolution as a quarterback, just being a little more?
Yeah, and that's something that I think we've talked about in the past, is like, you want to make it through the season, and that Tampa game, it was like, he's like, this might be the last time I ever play football in my life, so he was laying it all out there, and you got to kind of pick and choose your spots, because he's not the biggest guy. Those hits, they take a toll, and especially over the course of a season. So he knows how important he is to us and our team, and he's got to be able to take those opportunities, run when they're there, but also protect himself. And I think he's been a little, cautious as far as that goes. He's not one to take those big hits.
Going back to Curtis, when you're using a guy in that many ways, you have to have the physical skill set to do that. But what about him, do you have to handle a different mental load as well, and what gives him that ability?
Yeah, I don't know what gives him that ability.
I guess he's smart.
But that is the thing. I mean, I've said this before. He's one of the smartest guys that I've ever coached. I mean, if he makes a mistake and then you correct it and then he doesn't make the same mistake twice, we can pretty much line him up anywhere. You just tell him to play. He memorizes it, and he's good to go. He's kind of one of those guys. You tell him something once and he's got it. So that's what makes him, as versatile as, because there's a lot of guys that, I mean, there's not guys that necessarily have Curtis's skill set, but guys that can kind of do both and move around. But mentally they don't play fast because you're overloading them and they can't learn all of it. But Curtis does not have that issue. He studies it, but he gets it. I think football just makes sense to him. So you explain it, some sort of scheme or something to him, and he gets it and understand where he wants to be. And plus, a lot of times he's getting the ball, and guys seem to remember the plays where they get the ball.
That's true. With Brian and Antonio on the injury report, is that just like late season stuff, or is there any?
Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of the position. I mean, you're a running back, you get hit because you got the ball. Everyone's swarming to you. So, but those guys who manage it through the week, they're still practicing, just a little limited. They'll be good to go.
Okay.
Showed you that Taylor and Carson's friendship was maybe more genuine than other situations you've seen?
I mean, just the situations that they put in. I mean, Taylor could have been upset. When we brought Carson in, and then Carson could have been upset and whatever. And neither one of them has shown any signs of that. So, and I'm sure that they had their moments where they felt like that, but they didn't let it show here, and they didn't let themselves be bigger than the team.
Real quick with AG, not looking for a full season review here, but just generally how his role has somewhat changed this year. How has he handled that? And just how
He's been really good, same type of deal. I mean, he's been supportive of Brian, and then also, he's just been, he's just hungry for touches and carries, and he's ready to do whatever he needs to do to help the team. Unfortunately, JD got hurt, but then Antonio kind of moved into that role, and he's got the skill set to do that. So, he's just been eager and just wants to play, and like all these other guys. I mean, they want the ball, and they want to do what they can do to help win.
What makes Wes a good fit at center?
He's a smart guy. He's stout. He's physical. Big. He's a wide body, but he's smart, and he can get those guys lined up, and then be a good anchor inside to help with a clean pocket.
And then last thing on the Giants, because there were a couple times where last game guys coming free off the edge.
Yeah.
How tough are they to always know what's coming, just given the looks and?
No, they do, and that's where we got to really focus on getting the ball out of our hand, and then with the depth of the quarterback, that's why we got to be firm inside, because a lot of times those guys, they're coming off the edge, but the quarterback's they're 11 yards deep, and those tackles are trying to push them up and through, so up and over the top, so Taylor can step up in the pocket. And when you're retreating, you're just making the job easier on a defensive end. So pass protection all works together. The ball's got to come out, the receiver's got to get open, the ball's got to come out, and then the quarterback's got to be where he's supposed to.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
So, all right, thanks, guys.
You don't have 3
I was really going to ask you
I actually do.